Should you wait for the S26? It's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem. Now that Qualcomm has introduced its new technology, it's already started to emerge in phones in other parts of the world. However, as is the case every year, this is the start of a countdown of sorts until Samsung presents its new array of flagship phones. As we've seen since Samsung started matching the S number to the year, 2026 will be no different, as the S26 will be here before you know it. But with the 2025 holiday season upon us, you might be thinking that now's the perfect time to switch to one of the greatest Android phones. For some, you can certainly proceed without thinking twice, but if you have your eyes set on the S25, you might be wondering if you should wait for the S26. There have already been a plethora of speculations and supposed leaks, such as the S26 Pro, apparently replacing the S26, only for later rumors to indicate this won't be the case, while also claiming additional changes might be coming. The most evident change coming to Samsung's upcoming flagship smartphone is the processor update. Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 was revealed in September and will be powering many of 2026's greatest Android phones. This includes the Galaxy S26, despite speculations that Samsung might switch over to its own Exynos 2600. Instead, we'll likely see the same thing we've seen over the past few years. This means that people in the US and a subset of other nations will see the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, while other markets will see Samsung's own technology at the helm. Those speculations about Samsung starring things up by replacing the S26 Plus with the S26 Edge have been mostly disproved by more current ones. Samsung seems to favor the concept of a fourth phone in its flagship lineup, and recently speculations indicate that instead of replacing the Plus, the S26 Edge will just be added to the mix or forgotten altogether. If Samsung goes through with the S26 Edge, it would bring about an additional option to consider, as you could either get the S26 Edge with its ultra-thin design or the S26 Plus with its telephoto lens and larger battery. Beyond Samsung's internal debate about how many phones would make up the S26 series, it seems that just one of these smartphones could gain an update in the photography department. Previous sources say that the Galaxy S26 would retain its predecessor's camera array, but that the S26 Ultra would have a larger 200 megapixels Sony main sensor. Sadly, it doesn't look like there are really any other substantial plans in store for any of the other cameras across the forthcoming series of devices. It's also worth noting that many of the rumors and leaks so far suggest the S Pen isn't going anywhere just yet. There were fears about this being the case following Samsung's removal of Bluetooth capabilities from the S Pen on the S25 Ultra and the elimination of S Pen compatibility entirely from the Z Fold 7. While it doesn't seem Samsung plans to bring back an S Pen with Bluetooth for the S26 Ultra, at least it isn't getting rid of the stylus altogether. How much and when? There haven't been many leaks spilling the beans on Samsung's pricing plans for the S26 series. However, if Samsung were to hike up the price, now would be the time to do so, as we just saw Apple do just that with its iPhone 17 Pro, which arrived in September 2025. That being so, we don't expect the price hike to surpass another $100, and it may be limited to the S26 Ultra. Last but certainly not least, more recently, we've seen rumors and stories circulating that Samsung might be intending to postpone its first Galaxy Unpacked event of 2026. Making matters worse for those seeking an upgrade, it's rumored that Samsung could wait until March 2026 to announce the Galaxy S26 lineup. Ultimately, the decision is yours, and a lot of it relies on how desperate you are for an upgrade. If the S26 series were reported to keep to the January announcement timetable, this would be a bit easier to determine. But if it comes in March, you'll be waiting nearly 4 months. In which case, I'd probably just suggest that you wait until the Black Friday/Cyber Monday offers start flowing in and grab the S25 series for less, as they're still highly competent phones with plenty of AI to go around and years of software updates ahead. Samsung DeX update. If you've been following me, then you know how much I talk about Samsung DeX. I suspect he'll come back with the S26 Ultra, but like the design of Samsung's phones, it's long overdue for an improvement. Considering how Samsung has been working with Google on the Android 16 desktop mode, Samsung DeX needs more enhancements to make it unique. I've tried utilizing Samsung DeX with the S25 Ultra and stated it was a squandered opportunity because there's nothing new about it. I'd want to see greater window snapping support to allow up to 4 apps to run simultaneously in DeX, while an ability to bring back multiple users would make it more convenient. Google has its hidden desktop mode with the Pixel 10, but it's still not as handy as DeX, which is why it sorely needs an update. I just don't understand why Samsung continues to preserve the 3x optical zoom camera. Samsung's tipped to yet again feature a quadruple camera configuration with the S26 Ultra. But despite the speculations regarding the 3x telephoto camera getting an increase from 10 megapixels to 12 megapixels, I would rather remove it totally and bring back the 10x optical zoom from before. The Galaxy S23 Ultra was the final Samsung flagship phone to include that, switching over to a 5x optical zoom camera with the S24 Ultra, which continued with the S25 Ultra. Part of the reason why I think Samsung should drop this is because I think Samsung could get the same results with the enhanced 200 megapixels main camera the S26 Ultra is tipped to get. Through a mix of sensor zooming and image processing, Samsung may attain the same optical-like performance from just the main camera alone. This could leave room for a superior periscope telephoto camera with 10x optical zoom. And if Samsung somehow comes out with a version of Google's ProRes zoom, the S26 Ultra could offer zooming powers unlike anything else out there. Bring on more dynamic cases. Google made small adjustments with the Pixel 10 Pro XL, while Apple dived deeper to remodel the iPhone 17 Pro Max, so I truly want to see a makeover with the S26 Ultra. Out of all the flagship models out today, Samsung has the most uninteresting design. That's why I'd like to see a change. The reports imply yet another small design tweak for the Galaxy S26 Ultra, such as how it'll have more rounded corners. Looking at all the leaked drawings and photographs that have been passing around of late, it's unlikely Samsung's going to be making any modifications to its design. Next, leaked Galaxy S26 performance scores suggest Samsung is on the right track. Your S26 phone will be one of the most powerful flagship smartphones of 2026. Samsung has, according to multiple rumors today, opted to not only bring its 2nm in-house Exynos 2600 processor to the Galaxy S26, but also the Galaxy S26 Ultra. While I think that the Snapdragon versus Exynos discussion has to be retired, many of you still care strongly about which chipset is powering your Galaxy flagship. Which is why you'll be extremely pleased to hear that the current Exynos 2600 benchmarks are even better than the last ones, indicating that Samsung is successfully getting some last-minute upgrades in before launch. Exynos 2600 performance scores are increasing higher. Previous Exynos 2600 performance scores showed a chipset that was more powerful than both the Apple A19 Pro and the Snapdragon 8 Elite. According to the previous benchmarks, the Exynos 2600 performed as follows. 1. Single core, 3309. 2. Multi-core, 11,256. Now, the fresh scores that have popped up on Geekbench today for the Exynos 2600 are higher. 1. Single core, 3,455. 2. Multi-core, 11,621. Those are some extremely remarkable numbers. For contrast, the Snapdragon 8 Elite offers single-core and multi-core performance scores of 2,865 and 9,487, respectively. Apple's A19 Pro chip, meanwhile, offers single-core and multi-core performance scores of 3,753 and 9,702, respectively. As I've said previously, the fight over Snapdragon versus Exynos needs to cease, as no typical consumer will ever even be able to determine which chip their phone is powered by. Both of these CPUs are tremendously good at their tasks, and you'll be satisfied with whichever version of the S26 you get. But the simple truth of the problem is that we cannot predict which one will be objectively better. Perhaps Exynos will finally fix its battery efficiency and overheating concerns, and perhaps it will not. If the latter is the case, then Snapdragon will still be a fan favorite. But Samsung is most definitely on the right road here. I think it'll just be a few more years before Exynos CPUs are just as excellent, if not better, than the Snapdragon chips. So that's all we know for now. We'll be sure to keep you updated as soon as we have more information. Thanks for watching.